up, everybody? So we are in Matthew chapter 5, and we're wrapping it up here. And so we're going to be going through verses 38 through 48. And this is about retaliation and loving your enemies. And then I'm going to do a short little wrap up here. So you have heard that it was said. So again, Jesus is not critiquing the Old Testament and the prophets. He's critiquing the religious leaders of his day. I think that's important context for this. And if you've watched all my videos, you're like, stop beating a dead horse, man. But it's just for people that kick in, because this is like self-paced Bible study. I want people to be able to do these, individually. But you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. Now, I've heard this particular passage used as almost being preached as a subversive message of Jesus, where he's reversing a power dynamic. And that's all well and good, except for this one line in here. Do not resist the one who is evil. That is a powerful line. So you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, right? An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, right? We've all heard these things. But he's saying, do not resist one who is evil. He's saying that, and I'll get to what I think it means in a second. If they slap you on the right cheek, if they sue you and take your tunic, I've heard all different kinds of ways in which Jesus is using this message subversively to reverse a power dynamic and to show, he's anti-oppression and all of this. And I think he's simply saying that if you're a person that is strong enough to take it, if you are grounded in your identity of God, then this world can't shake you. You can be unashamed, which is completely different than being shameless. But being unashamed because you are secure in your identity of who God is. We see so many identity issues, confidence issues, fear issues in the world today, and people have no idea their identity as God's creation. The more atheistic and agnostic people get, the more they question their identity and what it means to be a creation of God, specially created for a purpose, the more we see people shaken to the core when somebody cuts them off in traffic. The more we see people questioning if their gender they were created with is the right gender. How did we get to that point? And how did we do it so quickly? I think this is about Jesus saying that those people who are grounded in their identity in God, if somebody slaps you, you can take it. It's not glorious. It's not glorifying us. It's not even glorifying the person that slapped you. It's glorifying God. To be able to take the pain and suffering of somebody else on your shoulders. And why would somebody slap somebody? Do you think they're balanced? Do you think they're based? Do you think they're loving life if they're running around slapping people? I don't think so. So there's this element of being selfless here and taking on the pain and suffering of the world, which is what Jesus does when he heals suffering, when he dies on the cross and is resurrected. In fact, even the resurrection is an act of service. So it goes on, verses 43 through 48, love your enemies. And it says, you've heard that it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be the sons of your Father who's in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. So again, this idea of the power dynamic switch in the retaliation section. When I hear people talk about this idea that, oh no, Jesus is saying if they slap you this way, then they're not slapping you as an equal. That's like how you would slap a servant, but then so you offer your other cheek, so they have to slap you as an equal. And it reverses nothing about that is reversing a power dynamic. Dude is slapping the crap out of you. So anyways, this next section where he talks about don't just love your neighbor, but love your enemy, kind of goes against the whole loving your enemy thing here. I mean, anyway, for if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You therefore must be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So the standard, again, is out of reach. I don't know about you, but it is very difficult for me to love my neighbors. But I will give this piece of advice. When I was going through the prophets, I found a verse, and I can't remember who said it, but I heard this idea that there are really two ways to destroy your enemies. And that when we look at the prophets, there's a lot of talk about how God is going to destroy his enemies. And sometimes it's a very violent language. But there are really two ways to destroy enemies. And that is that you literally destroy them, which is the worldly way. And the other way is to pray for them, to convert them into a friend. And that is a hard thing to do. And especially these days when everything is so divided, it is very difficult to pray for people that are on opposite views, that have opposite views of you. But I think there's something really important about this. And in fact, one thing that I did, I created a prayer list, and I actually put some of the people that I'm concerned about or that cause me grief on that list so that I have to pray for them. And it is not fun some days, and other days it's quite enjoyable and a good reminder. But there's that. Now, to wrap up this section, I think it's important to point out this idea that we've gone through the Beatitudes, salt and light, Christ coming to fulfill the law, anger, lust, divorce, oaths, retaliation, all of these ideas. We're not good. Left to our own devices, I think one of the most insidious things about sin nature is that we can't even grasp what ultimate good is. Have you ever done something nice for somebody? Like one time I started washing a bunch of pans in the kitchen, and my wife was like, I wasn't done using these pans. Like now I can't do what I need to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, I meant to do good, but I got it wrong. Right? That's what this section tells me. We even think that our depravity is good sometimes. So when the lust in the section on lust and anger, we think, oh, I'm so mad at him, but I didn't tell him off, so I'm doing great. That guy cut me off, and I only flipped him off for a second. I didn't scream a bunch of obscenities for my kids to hear. We get to the point where we think our brokenness is okay. The standard is here. And when we do this, we think, well, at least we're not somewhere down here. But the standard is the standard. We can't meet it. So, yeah, I stared at the girl in yoga pants, but I didn't hit on her. I didn't cheat on my wife. I wanted to punch that dude in the face, but I didn't. I wanted to. I didn't want to cheat on my wife, so I watched porn instead. We're not good. We can't even see what good is from our perspective most of the time, and the bar is set high enough that nobody's getting out alive. That's the whole point here. I do also want to point out, and I pointed out in an earlier video, that Jesus hasn't revealed himself as the solution to any of this yet. So when the people hearing this, they might have been feeling pretty hopeless because they're thinking, that's a lot of sacrifices. He just told me to gouge my eye out and cut off my hand. That's the source of my sin. Or my heart is the source of my sin. How am I supposed to get rid of my heart? Am I really going to burn in hell if I can't cut my heart out? These would have been shocking for his audience. So I did want to point a few of those things out in this section. Let me know what questions you have about this section. If you enjoyed this section, what stood out to you about this section? Put some comments down there. Start a conversation. Reach out. Talk to people about the Bible. It's a lot more fun when you study the Bible together. So anyway, like and subscribe to catch the videos as they come out. I will catch you in the next one. We're heading into chapter 6 of Matthew. So I'm excited about that. I will catch you soon. All right, peace.